With the price of gold riding at an all-time high right now, it's got me thinking, as an investor, where should I put my money for the long term? What is the best investment vehicle for me to put, for example, £10,000 or dollars into to get the best return on my investment? Well, watch this video because by the end of it, you will have 3 very good examples of where and how to store your money for the short and long term and for the safe and high risk options. Okay, so let's get straight into the episode. Right now, gold is fetching a very nice price. It's riding an all-time high. And that's left me thinking, is gold necessarily the best place to store a lot of my capital? As an investor, somebody who's trying to build up a large amount of capital right now to liquidate onto a specific investment, I'm constantly rethinking where I should be putting that money. Should I keep it in premium bonds? Should I keep it in gold, the S&P 500, crypto, or even in a property of some sort? Well, it's a good question. So for this video, I've done an in-depth breakdown of where and what are the best and most risky investments to give you the minimum yields and the highest yields for storing your capital in an investment vehicle. So in this video, we're going to be going through gold as an investment vehicle, as well as the S&P 500, crypto, but more specifically Bitcoin, and lastly, property prices. So let's start off with the simple analytical data. What's the percentages of each of those 4, and how can we work out what the best investment vehicle is for yourself? Okay, so to do this, I've looked at the data from 2023 as we're now into a new year. So we've completed the previous year, so we've finished that and we can get a completely accurate reading of how these assets and investment vehicles performed throughout last year. So starting off with gold, most importantly, what was gold's yield by the end of 2023? Well, gold had a very nice yield of 9.84%. I consider gold a very safe investment. So to get 9.84% on what you would consider one of, if not the most secure and safe investment vehicles out there, is absolutely fantastic. Now, I will say these yields do not account for the true rate of inflation, but nonetheless, this is still a yield on your investment. So positive nonetheless. Okay, so we know that gold had a yield throughout 2023 of 9.84%. Very, very good yield for a very safe investment. I'm very happy with that myself. So then when we look at the next investment vehicle on the list, we've got the S&P 500. How did that perform in 2023? Well, the S&P 500 had a fantastic year. It had a net yield of 24%. I mean, that's absolutely amazing. And that, in my opinion, is also considered to be a safe investment. Not very safe like gold, but nonetheless, it is a safe investment. So to get a yield of 24%, that's more than double what gold made in 2023, is absolutely fantastic. Moving on to crypto, but more specifically, Bitcoin. How did Bitcoin perform throughout 2023? Well, Bitcoin had a fantastic year. It increased by 156%. That's an astronomical yield on an investment. However, it's fair to say that Bitcoin is considered a high risk investment. So although it had a fantastic year, there would have been a lot of people who made some big losses as well. Moving on to number 4, house prices. We all pretty much own properties or are looking to at least buy our own home to live in. So I feel like this is also a relevant topic. House prices actually had a pretty poor yield throughout 2023. They actually decreased averagely by 0.5%. Now, it is considered a safe investment, so 0.5% decrease is not what you're looking for particularly, but we do know that realistically, property is a long-term asset that you hold for a very long time to build equity and pay off your debt to give you a lot of capital in the end. But no one at the end of the day wants a decrease, and for an average percent of 0.5% decrease in house prices, property didn't have a particularly great 2023. Okay, so now we've gone through the 4 investment vehicles throughout the performance of 2023. Let's look at them from a percentage point of view. If I had £10,000 to invest and I was looking to get the best return on my investment, what one of those would be the better investment? Well, we've gone through the figures. We know that the S&P had a great yield of 24%. Gold also had a very good yield of 9.84%. Bitcoin had a fantastic percent increase of 156, and property, well, we know what happened there. So how are we going to work this out? Well, I'm going to use the basic figure of 10,000 British sterling pounds, and I'm going to work it out via the percentage yields of those investments throughout 2023. So starting off, if you put £10,000 into gold bullion, throughout 2023, you would have had an increase of 9.84% on your money, yielding you a net result of £984 profit. Not too bad when you consider that gold is specifically a long-term investment, so you're not actually looking to make particularly high yields on a shorter period of time. It tends to be on more of a compound effect throughout a longer period of time. So I would say that an increase of £984 or 9.84% on a long-term, low-risk investment is very good. So overall, for gold, you would have £10,984 yielding on your investment from the initial £10,000. Moving on, we've got the S&P 500. That went up 24% throughout 2023. So for those of you that are quick with maths, your £10,000 would now be worth £12,400. That's an increase and a net yield of £2,400 on your initial investment of £10,000. Not bad at all when this is also considered a safe investment. Moving on to number 3, Bitcoin. Bitcoin had a huge increase of 156% throughout 2023. So on an initial investment of £10,000, you would yield a result of £25,600. That's an increase of £15,600. So we're talking about an astronomical yield on your investment. And of course, there are huge risks that come with that investment. It is also easy to lose it. But nonetheless, the figures do not lie. You would have had a net yield of £15,600 profit. So of those big 3, we know that gold bullion is for the long term. We know that the S&P is for the long term. And we know that Bitcoin is also for the short and the long term. So how do we choose which is the correct investment vehicle for ourselves? Well, that's a good question. And I think it will be specific to each individual because it depends on your investment goals and your targets. So for me personally, I'm saving up for a rental property, a buy-to-let property to be specific. So what would be the better investment for me? Well, you'd have to say, if you were brave enough, Bitcoin would be, because it would allow me to gain so much more capital in a very short period of time to allow me to pick up more rental properties. But as a long-term investor who likes to play the long-term safe plan, I wouldn't be doing that. I don't feel comfortable putting that much capital into an investment that has high risk. So that leaves us with the S&P 500 and gold. I feel very safe with both of these. Of course, with gold, I feel very, very safe. I don't worry at all about the long-term price of gold, whereas the S&P does have its fluctuations. There's no denying that, but generically, it is considered a safe investment. So if I was to invest £10,000 and I had to dump it into one of those 3 investment vehicles, I personally would choose the S&P 500 as my investment vehicle choice. Now, I know this title is quite ambitious. Why gold isn't always the best store of wealth. And before you get your pitchforks out at the end of this video and start taking to the comments, just hear me out. I am as much of a fan of the yellow metal as the rest of you. I own my own fair share, it's in my portfolio, and I believe in it as an investment vehicle. But when I really do look at these figures, I find it hard to not pick the S&P 500. For me, it just proves to build that compound wealth slightly quicker and slightly more effectively than gold. We know that gold is more of a wealth preservation device. It's your backbone of your investment portfolio. It's the hedge against inflation. And I've said this many times before. If you want to build wealth, use the S&P 500 for the compound effect. But if you're looking to preserve your wealth and secure your portfolio, then gold is the investment vehicle for you. But like I say, every investment vehicle will differ to your own personal goals and targets. I hope you enjoyed this video. I thoroughly enjoyed creating this one. I really enjoy creating these in-depth breakdown figures with factual information and data behind the topics and points in the video. So if you've enjoyed it and you've watched all the way till the end, please support me by smashing that like button and considering to become a subscriber. I'd really appreciate it because a lot of time and effort goes into creating these videos, and it really does mean a lot when I see your wonderful comments. So thank you very much for watching. I've enjoyed filming this as always. I look forward to reading your wonderful comments. And until the very next episode, I'll see you all then. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.